welcome to the Swift Half, your weekly session of chat from the UKOCR and adventure running scene. Each week, pub landlord Alan and our favourite regular Ian discuss races, runners and anything else that comes to mind. So pull up a pew, pour yourself a drink and join us for the Swift Half.
You're listening to the 72nd most popular podcast for people who think that Elvis is still in the building.
Yeah, my friend, welcome to the Swift Half again. How are you?
Happy July, Alan.
Yeah, the other day was American Independence Day because 4th of July. Was you watching the festivities?
I wasn't. I think I missed that. I've seen a few people share the hot dog eating challenge. And we'll leave that in, listener, because I really am that bad with words. Alan just makes me sound good.
I watched quite a few on Facebook. I'm one of these people that, when I click on Facebook, I go through things. And when I get to a reel, I click on, what's that reel? And then I'll click on a reel and I'll be watching, and I've seen loads of 4th of July festivities that have been going off and that. So I wouldn't say I felt like I was there, but it seems quite fun. They have lots of eating competitions and dunking your head in pies and stupid stuff like that.
It sounds like an OCR back in the day, doesn't it?
The pie eating competition that we had at, I want to say it was at Muddy Furlong, but it wasn't their race. It was Mud Seven's King of the Mountain, King of the Hill.
Something like that. But yeah, it was at Muddy Furlong. But yeah, it was one of their memories. We're making a lot of memories, aren't we?
Oh, a lot of memories. Before I ask you what you're drinking, I'm going to ask you a question. Have you ever used one of these shoe dryers? Because we've just been offline there and you were busy doing something while I was waiting for you. And I've just been looking at shoe dryers because I'm washing my Innovates this week. So the first time ever, I'm washing my Innovates and I'm thinking, how can I stop them from shrinking? So I'm thinking a shoe dryer.
I have to ask, how much is a shoe dryer?
$59.99.
Okay. Alan, I'll save you probably about 56 quid at the moment. Go out and buy a copy of the Times. Don't read it. Please don't read it. Stuff it in your shoes after washing them. It will stop them from shrinking.
But I've done this. Before with my Innovates, and it's never ever stopped my Innovates from shrinking. And I'm thinking I really need to stop them. I'm loving my Innovates. So anyone who listens, they know that I've always been anti-Innovates. But I'm loving my 270s and my 280s at the minute. I don't want to wash them and I don't want to shrink them. I'm frightened of washing them.
So why are you washing them? Because I presume by washing them, you mean you're throwing them in the washing machine as opposed to just rinsing them off?
I'm not this time. No, I'm putting them in the shower, yeah, and I'm going to wash them in the shower by hand. Rob, my running buddy, has convinced me I've got to do it this way, otherwise they will shrink. Because normally I just bung them all in washer.
It's a sudden realization that you don't wash your trainers after every run.
No, I don't.
No, wouldn't it shrink?
But no, because that's why I'm frightened of them. Normally I used to. So always, yeah, my trainers used to come home with all my kits, yeah, all in washer, and everything would go through one of them rinse cycles. Just rinse them off cycles. No detergent, just rinse them off cycles. I take them out, my shoes, and then I put the clothes through a proper wash cycle. But he spun everything in together for rinse cycle. And then I stuffed paper into them. And no other shoes, apart from my Innovates, used to shrink. Everything else stayed in good shape. Stuffed them with newspaper, really packed them out tightly. But my Innovates always shrank. So I've now not washed my Innovates. So I've had them 6 months. I've had all three of them 6 months. And I haven't washed them, but my 270s and my 280s need washing. So my 300s are fine, but my 270s and my 280s really need washing. My 270s mainly because when I went to Tough Mudder, Europe's Toughest Mudder, I've still got that sand in them. So last night I ran in them, and when I finished, I felt the sand still in them, and it's coming out. I don't know where it's coming from, but the sand's still in them somewhere. So, yeah.
Yeah, listener, the reason for the delay that Alan would probably move out later because he does edit this is I still can't believe you don't wash your shoes after every race and every time using them. I can understand maybe if you run out on the trails and you don't get too muddy. But after a race, Alan, when you've gone in water and like you say, you get the sand in them, I can't understand it. But to answer your question, I think that shoe dryers are a good way for making money out of people who are marketers' dreams. So buy one. Absolutely go buy one.
Shoot on, man. Unless the listeners, if any of our listeners hit me up if you've got a shoe dryer, let me know what you've got. I'm gonna hold off and buying one, and hit me up and let me know this weekend before it gets to Monday, because I will have bought one by Monday.
If any of our listeners has a shoe dryer and are usually free on a Wednesday, get in touch. You can come on the Swift Half next week to talk about the magic of a shoe dryer. I think this is a very safe bet. I don't think a single listener will have a shoe dryer. So yeah, let's see.
I think I know someone who will. So I'm going to have a little wager here with you. I think Will Chung's got one.
I don't think he will.
He likes his gadgets.
He does, but he also likes keeping money and not spending it on frivolous things. And 60 quid for a hairdryer, which they've said is a shoe dryer and would probably cost you 20 quid as a hairdryer, is not a good investment.
I wonder if I could make one myself with a hairdryer. Couple of hoses attached to it. Find an old hairdryer, couple of hoses attached to it. Yeah, put it in a... Oh, now you've got me thinking now. I'm making my own. Saving me some money.
I need to double check that the Barnsley Fire Service is not on strike this weekend.
Let's get on. What would you
otherwise, listener will have crispy fried duck.
Crispy fried duck. What are you drinking tonight? Well, while we're in here.
Our good friend James Burton inspired us. I'm having Athletic Brewing today. It is upside down. I realise I've still got a load of these from buying them when Sophia got me that gift voucher. Long-time listeners of the show will remember that. And it must have been at least 30 episodes ago since I bought them. But yeah, I'm still making my way through them.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. I'm on the milk again, better known as Punk AF. So yeah, I'm still staying with the Punk AF. I've had, since we spoke last week, Ian, I have had one alcoholic drink. That's quite good, that. 7 days.
One alcoholic drink? Have you stopped drinking it?
I stopped drinking that one alcoholic drink. Yeah, it wasn't you've got visions of me having a bucket and you've got a massive. So I've had one pint of alcohol. So I'm doing well.
I'm impressed. What drink was it?
It was a Lost Lager. So my local pub has now got Lost Lager on. So I don't know if I've told anyone. So it's a newish pub. It's been taken over by new management. It's the one that's closest to my house, but I usually avoid it. Been taken over new management, so I've just called in for one other day when we took dogs for a walk. So it's a Lost Lager, Brewed Lost Lager on tap. So I had a pint of it with some liming because it was red hot as well. So yeah, so I'm cutting right back on it. And I'm fasting as well. Have you ever fasted?
I haven't, but I listened to you on a podcast recently, which I've realised no one else has listened to yet, talking about fasting. So, that's a bit of a spoiler, isn't it?
Yeah, so I'm fasting as well, and I'm actually losing quite a bit of weight. So I'm over half a stone down now.
Right. Well, you do talk about it on that podcast, so let's not talk about it now. Let's wait till that one's out, and we'll put it on the notes next to strength and running.
Yeah, and talk about the strength and running at some point.
And once that podcast is out that you recorded recently, then let's absolutely talk. I'd actually love to get someone on who is an expert in fasted. What do you call it? Is it fasted diet? How do you say
I just
it?
thought it was called fasting. I just thought it was fasting. So
it's just fasting. But yeah, if there's any experts, we're doing a lot of shout outs for guests, aren't we? But if there's any experts in nutrition who believe or don't believe in fasting and exercise or just fasting, periodic fasting, Alan?
Yeah, because that's what I'm doing. I'm going to give it away, but I'll tell you what, I'm only doing it between certain hours of the day.
So if anyone's an expert in periodic fasting, get in touch. We'd love to have a chat with you because me and the duck, our nutrition's terrible. So it'd be nice to speak to an expert.
Too right. What did you have for lunch today?
Probably a sandwich.
Let's see how good our nutrition is today. What did you have for lunch?
I had a sandwich with an apple, an orange, a flat peach, because I went in Lidl the other day, and Lidl's the only place you can get flat peaches, and some little snack peppers.
Oh, lovely. Look, that sounds much healthier than mine. Mine was a pulled pork in barbecue sauce, panini with cheese on.
Did you make it yourself, or is there a shop near Bye.
There's a new shop near where I work that is doing amazing sandwiches and everything. They actually make their own paninis. So they actually bake their own paninis. And they do cakes and everything, but I didn't have none of that. So they bake their own cakes and they bake their own food. Everything is like really cheap, Ian, because they do it themselves. So for this panini I got, which imagine a length of a 6-inch sub, but like 2 or 3 times as wide. It was really flat, full of pulled pork and cheese and everything else. £3.50. I know, it's amazing, absolutely amazing. Let's move on about from what we're eating and what we're doing, shall we?
Yeah, can we just stay on the health thing a little bit? Listener, if you can hear my voice sounds a little bit strange, that's because I've got a bit of the man lurgy, so I do apologize for that, but my voice might vary throughout the episode. So when I take a drink, it sounds normal, and when I don't, it doesn't. It's weird.
So you've got to drink more often is the key, isn't it? That's the excuse I'm going to use next time after my 100-mile and I'm going out for a proper drink. I'm going to say I've got man lurgy and I've got to drink more often.
It's weird because you can hear me now and I sound normal.
Yeah, it is weird.
Anyway,
Really
should we talk about what you got up to this weekend? I was apparently catching man lurgy. So what did you get up to this weekend?
Total Warrior, and I nipped up Total Warrior. Got there really early. Got there before all the volunteers got there. I would say. Set up my tent. It was the latest race 4 in the UKOCR race series, which is supported by British Obstacle Sports. So I helped British Obstacle Sports with. I put up my gazebo. James brought up the flags and that, and some of the paperwork, and we had all the athletes register at the gazebo, which was just after registration, and we set them all off, and we did a bit of filming. We put the film now, but I want to make a bit of an apology for it because we had zero internet connection up there. It was like we filmed the start and we did that live, and then we soon realised that anywhere else we went, apart from that little 200-metre section, we lost signal of all phones. So it was like we had to record and then pop it out later. So a bit of an apology for people because I really wanted to go live, a little bit like Mud and Glory did down at Rude Rampage. I thought that was brilliant. I really enjoyed watching that, and I thought we would try and do some of that. But no, so it was really, really good. Before I go into the race, some new obstacles are brought out down there. Sink or swim. Swim or sink. Something like that anyway. But it was basically a shimmy across the mud, a pole, and then you fell into the water and ran on, which was one of them. Everything else was there, new slide. Everyone I spoke to said it was really, really good out on the course. But Total Warrior is known for that. Total Warrior is known for putting on a good race. Probably the fastest race as well, I would say. So 12K. I think Dan, I'll give it away because Dan Titcombe won it. But I think it was 46 or 47 minutes. I'll get the results up in a bit. I'll give you an exact figure. But 46, 47 minutes. I was in a car with Stuart, who was being race director. Oh, it wasn't race director for the day, but he's been the CEO of Total Warrior this last 6 months since Charlie had his accident. And we was in a buggy and we were struggling to keep up with him in a buggy. You know, he was taking shortcuts and we get to shortcut and I jump out and I'd literally be jumping out and literally I've just have enough time to film the first 3 men, the first 3 women, then we're back in the car again. You know, we're back in the buggy going somewhere else. So yeah, it was really challenging keeping up with them. So I've got the results up. I'll give results and we'll talk a bit more about it. So we'll talk a bit about some behind the scenes stuff. Dan Titcombe won it 48:34. So yeah, I say it was quite fast, didn't it? Gavin Hogarth, second place, and beat Jason Brunnett by just under 30 seconds. Gavin was having the race of his life. He was absolutely flying. It looked really, really smooth. Big shout out to Dan Titcombe who won it. He's been training all week. As people know, he works in the army, and he'd been training all week, so he was feeling a bit tired. He looked absolutely shattered after the race. I think the whole week had got to him and that. In the women, Andrea Berquez came up. She took it in a time of 58:58, and she was followed by Josie Lloyd in 1 minute. 1 hour basically dead. And then just in third place was Federica, which was about a minute behind her. Just about. It was so good out there. It was so fast. Karen McQuarrie I won't say had a bad race, but I guess she might say she had, because she was like nearly 3 minutes behind Josie, which is not like Karen. You know, Karen's normally right up there against them. I didn't get a chance to speak to her afterwards, Karen, so I don't know whether her and Gavin shot straight up, because I know they was going down to Spartan, but I didn't get a chance to speak to Karen afterwards, so I didn't get a chance to ask her. But amazing racing, amazing race.
Just you talking there about people who are on the podium, and obviously I've looked at the results, so I see some of the names. Isn't it great for the sport? Because Total Warrior traditionally has been a little bit of a bit. I'm not going to call it an outside race, but it's never been a community race, if that makes sense, Alan. It's kind of been like Wolf Run. It exists in its own universe. It doesn't really exist in the OCR universe, like MCU, like Nuts and Nuclear kind of do exist in the OCR UK OCR universe, whereas this has been standalone. But the level of people who were going doing that race, either one or two things happened, Alan. One, they all really fancy Total Warrior, or the UK OCR series to pat ourselves on the back. It's doing what it's meant to.
It is, and speaking to a lot of the people who went. And I won't name names, but as they turned around and said that they knew it wasn't going to be, because it's the same week as Spartan, and a lot of the top athletes were going to Spartan. You know, a lot of people, a lot of them do. They're all going to Spartan, and they said it's a chance to pick up some easier points, not easy points, but easier points. Because if these athletes are normally finishing 5th and 6th in a race at the best, they know they can potentially podium. You know, I think there was a shock when they saw the quad, especially in the men's race. You know, the men's race was stacked, and a couple of people actually ran who got good times. I don't know if you know these people, but have you ever heard of Ross Phelan? He used to be really big back in 2013, 2014 on the OCR scene.
Yeah, the name rings a bell. Did he kind of leave around 2015 as I was getting into it?
Yeah, I think he did. He sort of, I don't know where he went to, but he sent to vanish a little bit. Chris Garton as well, another name that I recognise, and Carl Gibson recognise them as well. So yeah, it was interesting. You know, that some of these names that I knew from a while ago, and I'm seeing them back up on here. I mean, I've always been a Total Warrior fan, living not far from Leeds. You know, 30-40 minute drive to it. I've tended to go there nearly every event, so I like it. But you're right, because it only has one a year now, it's not really been embraced by the community, and it tends to be a bit of a, you either choose Spartan or you choose Total Warrior.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And again, you've got the issue that up north we are more spread out. And you're right, what you do is you get a lot of local people. Total Warrior would be their one race of the year, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you would never have the people other than you or people who live locally, like our good friend the West, for example, Alan.
Yeah. They always go.
They would always go. But outside of that, you wouldn't see the people you see at every other. What was great is I heard from people, our friend Michelle Carney, she went and volunteered and then ran. And she loved the running and she loved volunteering as well. She said they looked after them really, really well. So if you're up in the air about whether to go to Total Warrior next year, look at volunteering and then running the next day.
Yeah. I didn't know Michelle had run. I meant to potentially run if you'd have known she had running. I came home, but I think this is the first race I've ever been to, Ian, where I've been, filmed, and got back home for 1 o'clock.
Yeah, it was kind of funny when we were messaging back and forth because I hadn't really started my day by the time you'd kind of finished the first part of yours. Because I think I was messaging you as I was waking up, and you were already there, as you said at the start of the show. So yeah, you just got on with your Saturday, didn't you, and took the HR lady out.
Exactly. I had a great Saturday afternoon and that. So yeah, one of the things I wanted to big shout out to Total Warrior was handling the weather, Ian, because the weather, there was no rain, but the wind was horrendous. The gusts, I would imagine there were 30-40 mile an hour gusts of wind, and the marquees they were tied down really, really well. Ultra had a blow up inflatable, whatever they had, because I didn't see it up, but they had to take that down. But everything else was just like nailed down so well, and not blowing. my little gazebo there was like literally caving in at one side at one stage, and I expected the poles to go snapping or something like that. Luckily they didn't. But yeah, it was super windy. Out on the course, where it is in Bremen Park, because of the woods and the trees, it is quite sheltered though. There's not a lot of openness for the wind to get up, but apart from where the registration is, which is right on the top of the hill. So yeah, big shout for them doing that.
No, well done to them. And Alan, as I text you on the Friday, I was being fair weather. I saw the weather on Friday. I kind of knew what the weather was going to be, and it was at that point I said, "You know what, Alan? Yeah, I'll take the day off. Right? Don't worry. I put a holiday request into Wendy. She approved it, so I was perfectly fine." Can I
You're lucky
just?
someone in that she didn't sack you.
That's true. Can I just talk about some of the obstacles, Alan? Because I saw on social media that human barbecue was still there, which is one of your all-time favorites.
My massive all-time favorite. I think it's the best fire jump ever when you jump in over a proper fire. You know, not a little thing. It's a proper fire, and you're jumping into muddy, cold water. You know, it's absolutely amazing. Yeah, one of my favorite obstacles that I had. Love it.
I will say the water looked low. That trench was deep because you had, when you went over, it wasn't just a case of jumping over fire and you splash water. You fell for what, a couple of feet before you hit the water.
Yeah, I think it's about the water level's about maybe a foot and a half below the ground level, but then the water itself is 4 to 5 foot deep as well. So we're not talking a little shallow pond. You're actually jumping into half decent water. You know what I mean? You're going to sink. You're going to go total submersion 9 times out of 10.
I'm just thinking, because again, I've never done it, is it might actually be quite terrifying because you're looking at the flames and you can't see what you're going to be jumping into.
Yeah, it is. It is that you are jumping into the unknown, especially if the smoke gets up. I did it one particular year, and it was really smoky in that area. I don't know what they must have thrown some leaves on it or something. It was really smoky. You were jumping through the smoke, and you really didn't know what was at the other side. You had to trust that it was there. We do put a lot of trust in. I'm just thinking about that. We do put a lot of trust in race directors, don't we, in building obstacles and to keep our safety intact.
Yeah, we do. Because thinking about something like takeoff, I remember once someone messed up with takeoff and there wasn't a sufficient pool of water. And again, you just trust that you're going to flip into it and there'll be enough as you go down. Obviously, when it was at Airfield Anarchy, you're going into a duck pond, you're perfectly fine. But when it's gone on the road, there has been a few hairy moments.
I think it was you're talking about when Airfield Anarchy owned it and took it to Mud 7 and they dug a deep pit and they filled it with water. But what they didn't take into consideration, that they didn't line the pit with anything, and the water seeped away as the day went on. So instead of like landing first of all into like, which was 4 foot deeper water, you ended up landing into 2 foot deeper water. Yeah, and they closed it.
Which was a good move. I was actually thinking of when it had been taken over by someone else. I can't remember who off the top of my head. And it was at an event in Wigan. And the pit must have only been maybe 2 feet deep. It wasn't dug deep enough at all. And first person who went in jarred the back, and that was the end of it.
Oh, yeah, that's not good. That's not good. What other obstacles do you want to talk about?
I was going to ask you, is there any other obstacles at Total Warrior that you'd like to chat about?
I did think they made one mistake. They put the plunge, which is, it's basically skips, Total Warrior skips, total submersions, just on the plank of wood. They put it quite early in the race. So when you set off, you run down a banking, then you come up a few hill slaloms, and then they put the plunge, which is great if you were out front. But as I was coming back, because it's close to the finish line, as I was coming back, I saw it after a lot of the fun runners, and there were a queue there. Now, I guess it's not so bad because no one were cold and wet at this point. But I could see that if it would have been raining, you could have been cold, you could have been wet, standing around doing nothing. So I think they made a little mistake there. Maybe mid-course would have been much better. But then again, they had a lot of water mid-course. I did see their idea of a cage crawling, which looks really good. It was, instead of cages, they had put scaffolding poles across, and they were very close together. So it was like literally very little. When you're going on a cage crawl, you can see the sky above you, can't you? With this one, I could imagine you couldn't see the sky because there's literally half an inch between the posts.
Oh, that'd be scary. And you've now given me a kind of idea that thankfully I don't think you can dig up a farm, so you'll never do this. But could you imagine doing that, but then putting one of your big black sheets over it? So it was literally a case of total darkness in Cage Crawl.
Oh yeah. We did that actually one year. We did try and put a sheet over it, but we thought it was too risky with someone going underneath it. You've got to constantly watch for them coming up to the side. So we did, because we did test it, I do believe, in one of the earlier years, especially the pond where the slide went down. We put two cage crawls next to each other and covered them completely in black tarpaulin, so you couldn't see anything. And we dangled the sides down into the water, so when you went in, it was pitch black. Yeah, but we felt it was a little bit too risky.
So one needs to invent two-sided cloth. You know how you get like two-sided windows where
Yeah.
it's tinted on one side? So could you imagine so that you could see it perfect, but people underneath it would be dark?
Now that would be absolutely amazing. Yeah. Should we reach out to anyone out there who's an inventor? Reach out, give selling me now. I need that.
I wonder if you could do that with glass. Or would that be too dangerous? You know, if you could get tinted glass so that you could see it.
Well, you can, can't you? But if you put a light behind it, that's when it stops untinted. So you're right. From the outside, it would be tinted because it'd be black underneath. So it would be in reverse.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But yeah, we need an inventor to find a way for you to be able to watch people so it's safe, but people in it are in complete darkness.
Yeah, we do. I like the idea of this swing or swim. I thought that was good. Just a shimmy across a bar. The drop, the plunge, where it was a good 4 meter jump into water. That looked quite good. And I like it that they don't make you wear life jackets. You know what I mean? Because it's optional. You do it if you can swim. You don't have to do it. For the UKOCR races, it wasn't optional. You had to have a penalty. So you got a 1 minute penalty if you didn't do it. And we actually to make it fairer, if you took the penalty, you had to go to the top, take your 1 minute penalty at the top, and then come back down the stairs. So it became a penalty. It was much longer than actually doing the obstacle.
It's really fair, and we're going to talk about penalties when we move on to the next race, I believe. So just put that in your back pocket. Have you got anything left to say about Total Warrior before we move on?
I was just going to give the dates for next year, Ian. So the dates are open. It's the 22nd and 23rd of June. I am going to say here right now, it will not be in the UKOCR series next year. Okay? So if you're planning on going to it, absolutely fantastic. We will encourage you to go. We're going to try and get a competitive wave on the Sunday on the 23rd, but it won't be a UKOCR series race next year. It'll be back the year after, hopefully, but not.
Yeah, it's completely understandable. As you mentioned earlier with Charlie, he's at the moment got a lot bigger things to worry about, and the whole team is picking up a lot of slack. So the additional pressure of trying to put on an event like they did over the weekend, I think it's a smart decision. Let them get 2024 out of the way, and we can look 2025.
Definitely. So that's the plan. Shall we move on to a little bit of Spartan-y stuff?
Yeah, let's move on to Tough Spartan. I mean, Spartan Mudder.
What are we going to call it? Because I mean, we talked about this other week, about moving some of the stuff. We got a few messages on Friday about what was happening, and we'd heard the rumours as well. I don't know what to say about it. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it moving Spartan away from a traditional Spartan? Spartan races, for me, are very much like Hyrox are now. You knew what you were getting. Yeah, you knew that you were going to turn up to a Spartan, and these were the obstacles you were going to get, and that's what you had to do, and then you had to run. And the only difference between a Spartan over in Tahoe and a Spartan at Beaver Castle would literally be the terrain. But this week, we have thrown all of that out the window.
I think you've got a good point there. I still think that when they're designing the course, they've got what's called a menu of obstacles, and a lot of the obstacles will be same, but I guess the difference was because it was at the Europe's toughest mudder venue, it may have been a tad muddier than a normal Spartan race that we've grown accustomed to. Let's be honest, in the early days, Spartan was muddy. it was just as muddy as Tough Mudder. But as it got competitive, the mud has become, well, limited to maybe rolling mud.
Yeah, and that's been about it. But I don't know if it was first or second obstacle. They go through what is known as Tough Mudder's pitfall, which is water and with holes in it. And they didn't bother filling the holes in. They just left it as it was with holes in and chucked some barbed wire across the top of it. And you had to crawl under the barbed wire in water, getting your hands dirty, getting your whole body dirty within the first kilometre.
It's a bit, I don't know how quite to feel about that in the context of what we were talking about last week on this show about obstacle placement, because they didn't move a lot of the obstacles from Europe's Toughest Mudder, Tough Mudder Midlands to Spartan, did they? So the next obstacle, I believe, was the walls.
Was the walls, and you are completely and utterly covered in mud. And I said this last week, it was tough. Needed to be the other way around, in my opinion. Walls first, which Spartan always have put walls first. I don't remember ever doing a Spartan where the first obstacle wasn't the walls.
No, it tends to be kind of traditional that it is one of. But saying that, in Tough Mudder, often the walls are the first thing, or hay bales.
Yeah. And at ETM, hay bales were the first thing at ETM. It was hay bales. It was bail bonds, they call it, don't they, in Tough Mudder at ETM?
Yeah. But
So
that was one, shall we say, talking point. Alan, what would you have thought if Spartan had gone first? So if Spartan had their event before the Tough Mudder event?
I don't know, because the obstacles were changed. So we're talking about some of the obstacles were changed. So Chunky Monkey, Funky Monkey became the caving ladders that you went from 1 to 1. Block Ness was the dunk. I don't know how you can have a 5 meter deep dunk though, because there's not a lot of dunking. You don't need to really do a lot of bending down and crawling. You just bend your head. And I am told that because it was an inflatable dunk, that people just lifted it above their head rather than actually getting dunked. I don't know. I don't think I'd be that worried, if I'm honest. If Spartan had been on last week and ETM was this week, I'd have thought, and ETM was exactly what we've seen. Yeah, I'd have thought ETM was a standalone event. I would have liked to maybe have seen the barbed wire over the top of Pitfall for ETM. I think that would have been good. I don't know. I don't think I'd be worried. As I think from the Tough Mudder crowd would not be as worried as the way Spartan crowd have shouted.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Would it have been better had they done Spartan first and given them, because everyone's talking about the mud, but Beaver Castle isn't the muddiest venue that Tough Mudder do. In fact, it's probably about mid-table. It was just a combination of the fact that we had torrential downpours. We also had the event the week before, which does make it muddy. So you'd already had 10,000 people go through it. So maybe they should have switched them, of what I understand. And again, this is all from an operational point of view, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's easier taking Block Ness out of that pit and putting dunk walls in than it is having a dunk wall there and then throwing Block Ness on top.
Yeah. And I guess it is from the operational point of view that they're doing it from things like that we don't see, because we don't see that, and we're presuming and making assumptions. We don't see how hard it is to get Block Ness into place or take it out. I've never seen Block Ness going into place. I saw them when they were doing some alterations on Chunky Monkey, and you got 2 blokes climbing on the top of the bars with the tools literally fastened to them on clips, and ratcheting and doing things like that with the ratchet guns to put the clamps on in place and take the clamps off. And I thought that was pretty precarious. For them to have then gone on while there's still all that water underneath and taken down the wheels, and then put up the caving ladders, there's a lot of work goes into it to changing it in a week.
There is, and Spartan obstacles are a little bit more straightforward. So it probably, from an operational point of view, would make more sense the way they did it. It's just unfortunate, shall we say, that as a result of the weather, it was really, really muddy for us. And we talked about this last week. We talked about it earlier in the show. I think obstacle placement was just wrong for both events.
I think, though, so from thinking off the top of my head, yeah, you can I haven't seen the course, so I haven't seen Strava, so I don't know how close a route it was to Tough Mudder's event. So I don't know how close a route it was. But you can still change the obstacles up by making people run different routes. So you could have still run that route and done hero walls or Spartan walls, whatever you want to call them first, and then come round and then done the crawl, because the crawl could have been done in either direction. The pitfall could be done in either direction. Didn't have to be done in that one direction. Funky Monkey could be done in any direction. Block Nest could be done in any direction. So you can mix the course up enough by changing the routes around. And I guess it's all in planning of that rather than stick to one route. That's if the landowner would let you do that. I don't know if they would.
That's true. And it's also in planning of your distances as well, because by sending you to hero walls and then back, it might have changed the distance. I reckon they could have probably took it off somewhere else, if that makes sense. So sometimes when they send you somewhere where you don't need to, they could have made it. So that's that. Can we talk a little bit about... let's talk about rolling mud first and foremost. It was, as you call it, Alan, it was Mud Mile.
Yeah.
And there's a teeny tiny bit of controversy with it.
I'm with Tony Leary on this. So Tony Leary is said it for me. Anyone who doesn't take on the ethos of the obstacles and do them correctly is not doing it. That this is not what it's about. I remember going down to Nuts very early on. I think my first ever Nuts was 2012, 2013. And they had a lot of pits where you jumped into water, you jumped out of, you jumped into water, you jumped out of. And I saw then people skirting them because you could. You could push up against that barrier tape and skirt them. This is what people have done here. They haven't taken on the ethos. If these people are competing, they need calling out. And from my understanding, if they didn't go through rolling mud, head marshal called them out and DQ'd them, or the ones he saw.
Yeah, which is correct, and it is exactly as it says in the rule books. Not everyone will know this because not everyone is someone who listens to all the podcasts. But in Spartan Canada, about a year and a half ago, maybe longer, you had a similar situation where the front runner skirted around the pit, didn't actually go into the pits. And in his hand, he was in his mind, beg your pardon, he was staying inside the course marking, so he thought that was fine. So they actually adjusted the rule now. It does say you have to engage with the obstacle.
Yeah. So they've got to jump in the pit, they've got to climb up over the mound. That is engaging with the obstacle. What people don't get is that these are mounds and ditches. If you put tape inside the mounds and ditches, you can't put it going up and down and up and down. It's going to get snapped. It's going to get snapped because people are going to use it to hold on to. The course markings are there as a guide. That's what I use them as. You know what I mean? I saw someone had put, and they were defending the fact that, not defending the fact that someone had gone round it, they're defending the fact that the course markings are not always right in line. You have to stop in them, because when you're coming up to Gauntlet, the course markings don't attach to the frame. They're close to it, but they're not attached to the frame. So it's not like a case you've got to run to that thing. That's not the case. They're there as a guide. The course markings are there as a guide to keep you on track. It's the spirit. It's the spirit of the race, Ian. That's the thing for me. It's the spirit.
I agree. And I was thinking when that person said that on, for example, Mini Mudder, because I've taped that out, they don't actually mark all the way down Mini Mudder. They literally just mark it up to where you go up your first mound, and then you pick up the course markings after. And you know what? Not a single kid has ever got it wrong. So red headband wearers, kids that are under 14, can do rolling mud better than you can. Yeah. That should be embarrassing.
If you missed it, guys, you need to be embarrassed. You know what I mean? If I can understand it. So one example, and I don't know if this happened, but I have done it in the past at Tough Mudder. I haven't been able to get up the banking directly in front of me. So I've actually come out on sidewards, onto the banking sidewards, and then I've jumped back onto the mound. All right? Does that make sense?
It does. It's actually my preferred technique generally going through, and I don't see any issue with that because you're using the obstacle to move through, if that makes sense. Providing you then don't skirt around it, but you head up like I do. You head to the tippy top place and then head back down again. I don't see an issue.
Yeah, and I've done that. I've done. I've done that in fun runs. So I've never raced someone or a Spartan where I've had rolling mud, to that level. And if I have, I would have gone over it. Every event I've done, I've jumped into the water. I've gone over. I was talking to Rob about this actually last night when we went on a run, and we was talking about bail bonds at Tough Mudder because there was no marshal on bail bonds, and we got to bail bonds, and it would have been quite easy to go up the side and miss them all out. And I said to Robert, I said, no, that's not the spirit of the OCR. We complete every obstacle, And he was agreeing with me, saying, yeah. He says, do you think everyone did? And I went, I'd like to think they did, But Spartans made me think, did everyone?
I'm not sure, but I am fed up of people lawyering. You know what? It's actually similar to what happened in the Ashes, isn't it?
Exactly. That's a prime example, isn't it? Where's the spirit of the game there?
Exactly. What he did was legitimate. And I guess what happened at Rolling Mud wasn't legitimate. It actually says in the rules that you have to engage with the obstacle. But some people would argue, course marking takes precedence, whatever. You know what you're meant to do in that situation. And they just didn't. Speaking of what to do in situation, we'll probably have to wrap up Spartan talk in a sec because I realise we're getting on with time a little. But can we just talk about penalty loops?
Yes. So we can talk about penalty loops because I mentioned this in Total Warrior. What should they be? I think is the question, isn't it, that's going to go out?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are a little bit not upset, but mildly annoyed that the penalty loops at this weekend's event, which was a event for the Spartan age group series, that's why people were so annoyed about people missing Rolling Mud. If people got up, so say someone who doesn't usually do Spartan age group, just a fun runner, beat you because they skipped Rolling Mud, they could knock you down the series and you could lose points for that, I imagine, or something like that. Someone's going to message me and say, that's not how it works. But that was generally how they felt. People are mildly infuriating that some of the penalty loops were easier to do than the obstacle.
Yes. I've listened to Accountability Corner this week?
I haven't listened to Accountability Corner this week. I'm not held accountable.
So I listened to Chris, Mo, and Darren on Accountability Corner podcast on Monday, and they recorded before Spartan, and it's all about penalties. And they talk about people potentially taking what they call tactical penalties for an advantage, but again, they talk about the spirit of the sport, trying your best. I saw a particular video of Spartan this weekend of a athlete with a red headband on, running to the rope climb, touching the rope, and then running off to do the penalty. It turned off a couple of seconds later, but the marshal was shouting him back. Yeah, because that person did not make a valid attempt. I don't know who it was, but that marshal was well in their rights. You've got to make a valid attempt. That's the whole thing. Wasn't it somewhere over in Mexico last year that a couple of serious runners, Mexican runners, actually completed the beast or something and one of them podium and ended up doing something like 200 burpees or something silly like that?
Something silly like that, yes. We've had a few occasions where people who are very, very good at burpees have done well, but I don't think anyone would be upset because burpees suck. So if someone's done 200 burpees and still beats you, the person that got beat should be embarrassed.
Yeah, but sorry, I'm going to say he should have done 200 burpees, but he said they had penalty loops and he ran the penalty loops so quick, is what I was meant to say. Sorry.
In that case, that's not, that's just not right. And we get back to the debate that's as old as UKOCR forum, which is it a runner's race? And when it's just penalty loops, it could be. Yeah.
I think the thing in the UK, so Spartan and UK race running or UK series, we have a lot of running in our events. Spartan and the UK events have a lot of running. You go to some of the European events and they're much more obstacle heavy. It's very much a 50-50 event as opposed to a 60-40, 70-30 split. And I think that's the case in the UK. You're always going to get, not always going to get, I'll rephrase that. The majority of the time, you're going to get the best runners coming to the crop. So I think you could take a good runner, teach them obstacle proficiency, and they will become a top OCR athlete. You take an average runner who's absolutely amazing on obstacles, and I don't think in the UK they're going to potentially podium because they're not quick enough over the running sections.
No, that's a fair point, Alan. And it probably will stay like that because we do tend to favour this is going to sound worse than it is, but the fun side of OCR, shall we say. We do like our mud run. If anyone was to think about the differences between the various OCRs, in America, you've got the heavy carries. It's all about the beefcakes carrying stuff. In the European, it's all about being effectively gymnasts. In the UK, we are so proud of our mud. That is what it becomes. And the counterpoint to that is it does tend to be more straightforward obstacles. We do have some really difficult obstacles over here, particularly with nuclear, particularly with notes. But Total Warrior, there probably wasn't anything harder than monkey bars.
No, Total Warrior was a pure and out runners course. It was the fastest runners were going to win that.
And there's nothing wrong with that because it brings in people who cannot do a complicated rig and doesn't make them feel like they're inadequate for not being able to do it. So it's going to be a debate that goes on. Alan, I've got a question for you.
Yep.
Should Spartan have used the ETM penalties for their penalty loops?
No, they shouldn't. No. I'm going to straight no. I don't think, thinking about it, they weren't that hard ETM. They were fun penalties. I think the whole penalty thing needs to be looked at. I think it needs to be looked at. I think we need to talk about, let's have realistic, it's all about realistic penalties. So for me, for Spartan, straight up, every obstacle, 100 metres, sandbag carry. There probably aren't enough sandbags to do it in. But 100 metre sandbag carry for every obstacle that is non-mandatory, that would, straight up, no one would complain.
Well, they could have done the mat drag that you had for ETM.
Fair enough. Mat drag, good. Yes, mat drag, definitely. That would be an ideal penalty because that was like 50 metres. I was going to say 25 metres one direction, 25 metres back. I think it should be longer. I think when we're talking about Spartan races, these have been the peak of racing for a long time in the UK. For the best athletes, Spartan has been the one to achieve. When they had the burpees, although the burpees were a fair obstacle for failure, it was people decided they was going to slightly cheat on it. People was going to take advantage of things. The form wasn't there, for some people. For some people it was. Some people had done 28, and said they'd done 30, and that ended up having the cameras put in place. We had marshals counting, we had cameras put in place. They need to do something that is going to be as tough as 30 burpees for failure. Yeah, so it's got to be that tough, but it's also got to be a case where it's not somebody counting anything, or it doesn't go to it can be done and dealt with quite quickly.
Okay, I've got two thoughts on that. Which one? Pick one or two, and I'm going to say both of them, but I'm not sure which order to go in them.
Let's go two first.
Okay, two first. Why not do burpee broad jumps?
Burpee broad jumps, yeah. But then, do you have to do high rocks burpee broad jumps and have to put lines on the floor, or can you do whatever burpee broad jumps you want to get to the end?
Potentially, yeah. So you would have to think about people still doing the wrong, or maybe adopt a high rocks exercise. So maybe burpee broad jumps won't work, but maybe sandbag lunges would. Oh, sandbag lunges would be evil.
Evil.
But it would force people to do. And here's so you pick the second one. Here's my other suggestion. And this might be a hot take. How about the number of sandbags available at a sandbag carry penalty vary based on the difficulty of the obstacle and the likeliness of failure? So you have a lot of sandbags, say, for something like the spear, because spear can be 50-50. I know it's not because you can train it, but lots of people fail it. But for something people should pass doing Spartan, like the rope climb, have 6 sandbags there. And if there's no sandbag when you get there, oh, well, you have to wait.
Yeah, there's possible with that. But I'm sure they could sign up with somebody like Wolverson, for kettlebells, and they do a farmer's carry,
Yeah, farmer's carry could work. But I'm thinking that you mentioned earlier about apparatus could be an issue. Fantastic. Turn it into part of the penalty. If the apparatus is not available, hard luck, you should have done the obstacle.
Yeah. We could talk this all night. And we said to people, if you wanted to speak about it, because we don't talk about it all night, go to listen to Accountability Corner. They've got an hour of it. It's their longest podcast to date. They've got an hour of it.
It does sound like something. Maybe we have like a town hall one time where we invite people on to have a chat about this, Alan, and we can go on. But let's cap off Spartan. Do you have the results?
I do actually, yes. I've actually got them here. So let's go. First of all, we will go Saturday Beast Elite Race. Jean Vlader won it. Good to see Luke Benedictus coming back into form. Second place. Third place, Connor Wickens. In the female, we've got Eileen McCann won it, followed by Louise Ferryman and Libby Joyce rounding up the elites there. Then we will go to Sunday Super Elite. In the females, Andrea Berquez. So she actually won Saturday's Total Warrior and then travelled down and did Spartan on the Sunday, the Super. Andrea Berquez won it. Rachel Decker, good to see Rachel Decker coming back as well, second place. And Fedi getting third. Just to round it off, Karen McQuarrie actually came in fourth as well there for the females. In the men's section, same race, Jean Vlader won. Second was Jason Brunnock, who got third at Total Warrior. And then in third was Gavin Hogarth, who got second at Total Warrior. So they reversed results there. Well done to them too. A few of the people that went down, I saw Fergal as well, went down from Total Warrior. And I think he got sixth, if I remember rightly. And then was there on Sunday, was the sprint as well? Yeah, there was a sprint, wasn't there? So in the sprint, Jean Vlader won again, taking 3 out of 3. Amazing feat from that guy. Morgan Maxwell second and Jason Brunnock in third. Well done to those guys. And then in the women's, Josie Lloyd, second at Total Warrior, came first, and Federica Di Cario second, and Karen McQuarrie third. So well done to them. Libby Joyce in fourth place, beating Pip Rainbow and Louise Ferryman. Libby's coming on leaps and bounds.
Well done, Libby. And can we also give a shout out to the people who did the Cryfecta 2.0? I've got the names here.
Yes, I have. I'll let you give them this time.
We had Owain Grufford, the Welsh Spartan, Andrew Malcolm, and Emma Kirkwood. I think, Alan, is that the 12-hour Hurricane Heat, Spartan on the Saturday, then the 4-hour Hurricane Heat, then the Beast is on Saturday, so they do that, and then on the Sunday, the Tractor?
Yes. It's everything. The whole event's over the weekend that Spartan do. The crazy people. Absolutely crazy people.
They really are. I think that, I'm sure Graham will correct me if I'm wrong, and we'll correct that next week if I'm wrong. But basically, they do everything that Spartan offers on that weekend.
Yeah. Everything in the kitchen sink. I think they actually probably have to do a volunteer session as well.
Oh, gosh. Unbelievable.
Amazing. So, do you want to do a bit of Shopsicle sports news while we've got some?
Yeah, give some British Obstacle sports news. Listener, apologies, this will be a long episode because we've still got a few more things to get on with.
So they've had a bit of a push this week on memberships. The first 100 people who got someone to sign up got a Tough Mudder 5K ticket. How good's that?
It is a really good deal.
Absolutely free of charge. That's absolutely amazing. I thought that was absolutely brilliant. Now, I've got a message from James, see how close they were to that 1,500, and he said they were 2 members short. So this was as we're recording this now, we'll give some times away now. So this is 8 o'clock now, and we got this at 7:15. I know for a fact they're only 1 member short now because I've signed the wife up.
So this is 1 member of being 1,500, yes?
1 member of being 1,500 short.
So that means to get ready for application, only 151 left.
Yeah.
It hardly sounds anything like when you say it like that.
We're getting so close. Absolutely getting so close. It's fantastic. It's phenomenal, Ian. It is.
So everyone who's listening to this, try and get someone to sign up if you can.
Yeah, I've signed Wendy up for 2 years as a supporter for £8. I just thought it's eight quid, isn't it? It's only £8 for 2 years. I'll sign her up as a supporter. It all goes towards it. So sign up your friends and family and everything else. And if people are a little bit on the fence, yeah, you don't know where you're holding off, send us your questions, your answers. Why are you holding off? Because in the next 2 weeks, I've got James and the British Obstacle Sports Board joining me for a Q&A session. We're going to put all the questions, good, bad, ugly, whatever you want to put towards them. Yeah, we're going to put every question towards them and get an answer to everything. Because we need it. We need answers. People want answers.
People do. And I do think British Obstacle is in a much better place than it was 121 episodes of the show ago.
Yeah, without a doubt. But it's amazing. I love what they're doing. I love what they're doing. I will support them as best as I can. I wanted to see the first one, which was UKOCR. I thought they were going to go places, and then they did, South Africa. But British Obstacle Sports are going places, and I quite like it. We're traveling the UK and we're going everywhere and doing what we need to do to promote the sport. So yeah. So, do you like that, Ian? Did you like that little?
I did. Sorry, listener, I had to put that on mute, so you didn't hear me laughing because that was quite interesting, quite fun. I'm not going to explain the joke. You're either going to know it or you're not.
Yeah.
And a joke's ruined if you explain it. Should we talk a little bit about High Rocks, because we had breaking news as we were recording the show?
We were just about to press record when it came through, didn't it? And then you had to stop me and.
Yeah, I had to stop so we could post it on UK.HXR and IG. But Alan, Manchester has been announced. I know you've been waiting for this.
Tell me, because I'm wanting to book it. Give me the weeks.
27th, 28th of January, so same as this year, except anyone who listened to that knows it's a 2-day event.
Wow. Unfortunately, I can't make it, Ian.
You mean you can't make it?
I'm going to be injured that weekend.
Oh, you're injured that weekend. Have you booked it in? Thought so. But Alan, here's something that might change your mind, okay?
Go on.
You have said because you've stepped up to pro, you can never do open.
True.
I think you're mad for saying that, but you are a man of honour, so I respect that. High Rocks have thrown you a bone.
What? They're literally going to throw me a bone as I'm going around the lunges, aren't they? They're going to throw. Look, here's a new bone for your leg, Alan, that you've just broken.
No, a figurative bone. Starting from 2024, Manchester's going to be one of the first pro doubles events.
So all I've got to do is find someone daft enough to do a doubles event with me.
Exactly. All you got to do, it has the fact that you have to run just as much, which is perfect. Running's your strength. Yeah. But you only have to do half the work.
I like this. But I don't mind doing. And in fact, I don't mind doing more than half my work. But when we get to lunges, whoever I'm with, they need to know they need to 100% of that.
I think you'd be able to do some. You just need to pass it back. Because when I was with the intern, I was like, oh, I can't do lunges. And I probably did about a third, maybe even a half of them. Because when you can get rid of it in 5 or 6 lunges, it's quite motivating.
And I only did 12 lunges. And I think I'm exaggerating when I say that.
But you'd then have a breather. You'd be fine. So, Alan, I have to ask, and this comes off a conversation I was having with someone who was asking, because High Rocks have announced they have big news coming. Yeah. And someone asked me, what do I think it is? And I posted on our IG, just enough plug for that, what do you think it is, as a question? And most people got it right. Most people said, oh, Manchester's being announced. But someone mischievously put Ian Goes Pro on it.
Right.
And I reached out to that person and said, the only way I would ever do pro is if it was doubles.
So Ian's doing pro.
Ian may end up doing pro because Ian's big mouth can't stop itself sometimes. So, yeah. So, Alan, you know what that means. You have to do pro. I may do pro. Yeah. We know exactly where this is going. Okay. So, Alan, I've just got one thing to ask you.
Go on.
Do you want Hunter or Tom Hogan? And I'll
So
take
this
the
is
other
what,
one.
so this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna get them and we're gonna have a race, me and you. So either you and Hunter or you and Tom and me or Hunter, me and Tom. And we're gonna have a race. we're gonna see who wins. So this could be interesting, this. I think I'm probably a little bit better runner than you, and I don't mean that in any negative way. So if I took Tom, yeah, because Hunter's probably a little bit better at IROX than Tom, and then you have Hunter, we could actually have it'd be pretty much of a similar handicap, wouldn't it?
We just have to convince Hunter and Tom, and I'm not completely convinced we'd go for it. So instead, should I ask the question that I'm sure the listener is asking in their head now? Okay, I'm not going to get down on one knee, Alan, but will you be my doubles partner?
I would be honoured to be your doubles partner, Ian.
Let's make it
people have heard
happen.
first. Let's make it happen. You've heard it here first. Me and Ian are going to be doing. Oh my God, what have I set myself in for now? We're going to be doing pro at High Rocks Manchester as a doubles. Wow.
And listener, please get in touch if you want to be the first or second alternate for this team, just in case one or both of us gets injured.
We're already making plans to get injured.
Absolutely. What else is left, Alan? Because I'm conscious of time.
I just want to talk about there's Muddy Dog Challenge have announced their next race. So anyone who's got a little doggy down London Way, 9th of September, 10 o'clock. Price is £47 if you want to run it with a dog, £37 without a dog. I do believe it's about 5k with obstacles that are dog friendly. You get a t-shirt. Your dog even gets a bandana and a rosette. So you get a medalling t-shirt. Your dog gets a bandana and a rosette. I think it's worth it. I wish it was up here. I'd love to take little Margot round. She would love something like this. She loves getting muddy. She loves running constantly. I have to constantly chase her. She's keeping me fitter than I have ever been. So yeah, please come up this way. So I do believe it's Tunbridge Wells, if I remember rightly. But yeah. And other than that, there's a couple of little things. New racing app that's coming out. So we've seen this in our Facebook group. Not going to go into it. Looks like a bit of a coaching app. I hope it's not just a coaching app here. And I think there's a lot out there at this moment in time. It needs something a little bit more.
Yeah, I did the survey, and listener, by all means, do the survey. It was a bit of an odd survey in that it asked you to rank how much you'd pay, but it was almost like, what would you consider expensive? What would you consider a bargain? And yeah, it was a bit weird, and it was in dollars. And let's just see what happens. By doing the questionnaire, I think you get a month free on the app. So I'm tempted to try it out when they send me my free month.
Well, I'll let you test it. I'm not going to test it. I've got my plans all laid out. Before we go, let's just talk about what races and events are on this weekend, which are, I know you've got a list.
I do have a list. Let me just pull it up again. We have mainly pretty muddy events. There are lots and lots of pretty muddy events, which is really, really good because those are the kind of events that encourage people to then sign up to like a Tough Mudder or a Spartan. Also, Clarty Bairns, their race is on. I think we chatted about this, Alan, a few months ago now. If you remember, we kind of announced this was happening. They have a couple of events over the course of July. Do you remember?
Yeah, I do, yes.
And perhaps the biggest thing this weekend, our good friend Rick, Raw Fit Summer Fun. So if you are at Raw Fit Summer Fun, me and Alan are probably not going to be there. Please tag us, please send us anything, and have a great time.
Cool, right. And I saw Rick at Total Warrior. So he travelled all the way up to Total Warrior last weekend as well, all the way from Hastings.
Absolutely. I just can't believe someone would travel that far for Total Warrior, but it's a great race. And I'm glad, again, we said this earlier, I'm glad that this series is encouraging people to make them trips. And next up, Alan, what is it?
We have got Beach Ballistic. Date-wise, I know it's in August. I haven't got the date, Andy. It's on my wall, and I can't see it on my wall here because it's gone dark around here.
Don't worry, but people can look when Beach Ballistic is up. I think people who last year travelled up had a great time. So make sure you if you can get up there to Aberdeenshire, go and have a great race.
Yes, definitely. And on that, Ian?
And on that, We're all out of notes. I'm all out of beer, so it's a goodbye from me.
And I'm going to drink a bit more milk, and it's a goodbye from me. Thank you for listening, everyone. You take care. Speak soon. Bye.